our valedictorian, Mr. Reid Johnson.
About 24 hours ago, I was starting to get worried because I had absolutely no plan for what to say in this speech, so I started fishing around for ideas. I got about 50 responses, and some of them were thoughtful, but the vast majority of them were really bad. I got 7 people telling me to just wing it. I got 4 recommendations for songs that I could either play or sing along with into the microphone. I got a lot of responses that were too offensive to perform or even mention, and I got one surprisingly detailed plan to engage the audience in a giant game of musical chairs. But by far the most common was just people asking me to mention them. Most of these suggestions were pointedly irrational, and I didn't know how I could possibly incorporate any of them, let alone shouting out 30 different people. But despite this, they were very helpful in a different way. They allowed me to release some tension about this speech, and they made me happy for a bit. So I decided that instead of patting myself on the back for being smart for 4 minutes, I would hijack this particular celebration of intelligence by offering my thoughts in praise of irrationality. In the short term, we're all here because we went to school and waited in line on Tuesday, and then went to the lake and waited in line yesterday, and then went back to school and waited in line again yesterday, and then went to school and waited in a grid that was essentially a line earlier today, and here we are in that same grid right now. We would have graduated regardless, but we decided to spend about 10 hours in the last 3 days just waiting to celebrate the sense of community we happen to get from living within the same arbitrarily drawn district lines. But despite the convoluted pointlessness of graduation, we are all here together, united by an irrational hope for a bright future. In the long term, we're here today because we suffered through a whopping 670 days together, and that's if you only skipped 50 days. And now it's over. For some of us, life after high school will be better, and for some of us it'll be worse. But for the majority of us, I personally believe that it'll be exactly the same. We'll have to figure out some way to jump through the same hoops with the same irrelevant lessons and the same egregious workloads, only now we'll be paying for it. It's up to us to find a way to be happy about this. And the best way I can think of is to step out of here with the blind, irrational faith that life, for whatever made-up reason, gets better. My journey to this moment has been difficult, largely because I've internalized too much criticism and not nearly enough irrationality. Evaluating the world around you empirically is useful but painful, and that's why I'm glad we're gathered here today in both suits and robes for some reason, waiting through this speech that we don't care about, just to hear our names announced briefly. And now, instead of concluding my speech at its natural apex, in honor of brief name announcements, in honor of things you don't want to hear, and especially in honor of irrationality, I'll conclude by offering shout-outs to every single person who requested one from me, along with some people who bestowed upon me some of my favorite bad advice, both for this speech and for life in general. Thus, I would like to thank my teachers, my parents, my sister Karina, and my classmates Nick Klekas, Brett Masaki, Brooke Stickney, Roy Ramos, Ethan Shane Johnson, Kinley Williams, Ashkan Hassani, Big Nick Stansberry, Zach Kraft, Banger McLaughlin, Jenny Burns, Sonny Situ, Parkour Peter Neal, Michael Salmi, Gabe Villar, Jessica Fuenzalita, Jessica Wright, Emily Wurst, and Jake Hardison, whom in particular I will never forget. If you enjoyed listening to those names being called out for 30 seconds, then you're going to love the rest of this ceremony. Thank you, genuinely, for helping me get to this moment. I hope the traditional hope that we all live great and fulfilling lives, and the untraditional hope that you're all stupid enough to be involved, stupid enough to be passionate, and most of all, stupid enough to be happy regardless. Thank you.